There are times that I may slip up, won't always get it right. Guarantee I'll be on top when it's game, set, life. Get up and show up, don't ever lose your fight. You watching me from the couch, at least I say I tried. A long time ago, someone said this stuck with me. Passion without action will only remain a dream. Keep positive, motivated people on your team, cause other negativity can kill your self-esteem. Believing is powerful, but sadly so is doubt. So you can choose which way you wanna go, which route. The mind that controls the body can beat anybody, and gotta be all in, don't treat your dreams like a hobby. And if you practice on your day off, won't have an off day. Talent alone won't get you there, still got a long way. Gotta take big risks and big steps to strive. Wanna be the winner when it's game, set, live. Whoa.
Whoa, and welcome everyone to the 2023 edition of Game Set Life. I'm here with the incredible Hall of Famer, Rick Macci, the world's greatest, not only tennis phenom maker and coach, but also life maker and coach. And I've heard, Rick, welcome to Game Set Life with me, but I've heard these speeches over the last month now. Yeah, you're blessing me with your content, and it seems to me that you have equal passion for inspiring kids regardless of their tennis capability as much as you are making phenoms on the court.
Absolutely. It's not even when I give speeches to the kids, it's not a lot about the technical part. It's about the game of life, and they're all locked in. They listen to me, and I just change their mindset. Or if I don't change it, I try to change it. So yeah, I love it, and the parents love it, and I get all the kids together, and they're all locked in, and it's all about the game of life. And if I can make a little difference, it makes me feel even better.
In listening to the speeches, you talk about being locked in, and one of the challenges that we have teaching not just the kids today, but parents of the kids today who were kids when we were still doing this before, and it's amazing how time flies. But in several of the speeches, I can see you having the same challenge I do, is you really spend a lot of time. And my 12-year-old's football coach, who's in his late 60s as well, he does the same thing. He makes sure that he teaches attention. He teaches when you're talking, you want people locked into you, and you don't let them look at their phones and look out to the sky. You're consistently during the speech going, "Hey, I'm right here. I want both your eyeballs on me and both ears on me right now."
Absolutely. They're even though their mom or dad's probably recording it because it's must see TV, and the parents all record it. But I want the kids to take responsibility. I want them to look straight ahead, not to the right, not to the left, right here, right now. And boom, I'll stop the speech and call people out and definitely get their attention. Because I think kids have a tendency to drift a little bit, and they're not used to just locking into something. And when I talk, it's like that old E.F. Hutton commercial. When he talk, people listen. So it's a good thing. But now when I talk to the kids, they really pay attention.
And I don't know if you've ever seen the sports film. I know you've seen King Richard, but ever seen the sports film For the Love of the Game with Kevin Costner is in his last season as a pitcher, and he has this zero funnel. It clouds out everyone in Yankee Stadium. He's throwing a perfect game. By the way, I'm sorry, he was throwing a perfect game for his last start, and since he was a kid, his dad had taught him to have this, only see the batter in the catcher's glove. And I know that you teach this type of focus. What are some of the ways that we could have that complete focus? Forget the general watching someone's speech focus. I'm talking about, it's the fifth set, it's the perfect game, whatever the moment is that, everyone in the world is cheering and watching and screaming, and you only are focused in on performing.
Yeah, no, a lot of times what I try to teach the kids, there's a difference between there and right there. It's what I call finite focus. You got to pick out a target, and you got to just be tunnel vision, and you can train yourself to be that way. You're a performer, you're an artist. It's much easier to do that when you're just a competitor. But I try to get the people to have targets and be locked in about a specific area. And there's a difference between, oh, let's hit it there and right there. It's like a golfer. They're picking a spot on the green. You know what I mean? And this is what greatness does. They're very specific, pinpoint. And the more you see it, believe it, feel it, and even rehearse it in your mind, it's more likely to happen. And I used to do that as a point guard, and I always felt I was a little step ahead at my own level.
And at your level, I practice as you do every day, and I probably give and receive more interviews than most people on earth now, especially because of the virtual nature and the amplification that we've been blessed with. um, I was hoping maybe you had a question for me, because you're building quite a speaking and performing career as well, and I know that together you and I have some great ambition for 2023. I was wondering if anything's come to mind that you might be curious about that I could help you with.
Yeah, well, first off, I think what you do, people can feel the genuineness from your heart. And that's why it's a gift that keeps on giving and you just keep building. So I guess what I'm trying to say, how did you kind of transform from a sports agent, okay, and representing athletes to, in my opinion, one of the best motivational speakers in the world?
It's interesting because when I first started speaking, my biggest nemesis was I thought I was one of the best inspirational speakers in the world, and all I really had was potential. And it was the first time that I was pursuing something that I felt as if I had world class potential, and I could actually sympathize with all the world's best athletes that I'd worked with for over 30 years. Like what it must have felt like to be LeBron James at 19, but LeBron James at 19 was not LeBron James at 30. Uh,
Absolutely.
Right, and I think the lesson that I learned, in really is that when I started, I couldn't confuse my potential with where I was at today. And instead of buying my own bullshit and buying other people telling me how great I was when I was starting, and I had a lot of capability and a lot of potential, and I was good, if not even very good, just like LeBron James at 19, but I wasn't where I am today because I took in humility and I said, regardless of what other people think, I know I can get better. What do I need to do every day to get better? And I looked at one thing. Instead of looking to see what people wanted me to say, I see so many speakers, especially inspiration ones. I'm worried about, I'm worried about them listening to me. I'm worried. I wanted to know what they were listening for, and I wanted to give them all of me, my skills, my knowledge, and my desire, not what other people wanted me to say, not what was missing, not trying to be something I wasn't, but humble and vulnerable about my money issues, about my career, about personal things that have happened. I wanted people to know, hey, you see what you get. I'm doing my best. I'm learning lessons and having fun. And if I can help you not pay the dummy tax that I paid by doing your best, learning lessons and having fun. And I will tell you that, I practice doing this as much as probably any professional athlete practices their golf swing, their tennis swing, serve, their football throws, whatever it is. I'll happily, just like you, practice your superstardom. We'll put the hours of attention up against any of the best in the world of what they did, and we'll have another Hall of Famer on here in a few minutes, and I know he was born with extraordinary genetics, as you always say. That's a good thing to have in sports. But there's plenty of people that are born with great genetics that don't go anywhere.
Absolutely. But to go back to your answer, Dave, there's so much meat on the bone and there's so much to unpack about what you said. But I think your passion and your desire, and you're never satisfied. There's someone that's going to take your place. You always want to get better. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You want to think the end is like tomorrow. And because of that mindset, okay, you just keep pushing. Before you know it, instead on first base, you've already rounded the bases many times and you just keep running. And that's what greatness does. The minute you're satisfied, things bad are going to happen. And that's what you got to be careful of. But what you said there, your wiring, okay, and never, like, people always tell me like how good I'm doing and stuff like that. I appreciate it. Everybody likes compliment, but I'm trying to get better tomorrow. I'm trying to get better, and that's the way you got to think if you want to keep pushing forward and just open up new doors.
And what's your famous quote about if you're not getting better?
You're getting worse. All right.
Yeah.
I'm getting better on Tuesday afternoon, and that was 1968, the Moody Blues, Tuesday afternoon. You remember that one? That's between me and you. Marshall might not remember that, but you remember that one. Tuesday afternoon's getting to be my favorite afternoon.
That's the year I was born, so not to age you, my friend. I was born January 11th, 1968. I got my birthday in a few days, so that's a great song for me. And to that point, we can pick and choose what we want to get better at. And one of the benefits or blessings about our capability is that as we get older, not only can we get better, but the capabilities are suited to getting older, meaning we're going to bring on Marshall Falk in a couple minutes. What I do really well, I will only get better when I'm 70, 80. And then eventually I'm sure, my brain will deteriorate the way that knees and hips and muscles have deteriorated on the great Hall of Fame running back, Marshall Falk. But, what do you see in tennis? Because you work with the greatest tennis players ever. We all know that, Serena and Venus and Capriati and Roderick, and the list goes on and on. But when they were coming to the end of their career, and those genetics were now working against them because genetics wear out over age, athletic genetics, what was your job as a coach to, balance out the wisdom side with what the athletic deficiencies of getting older were?
First off, that's an awesome question. And even Roddick, okay, who was the last American to win a Grand Slam, okay, he retired kind of early. He wasn't going to be satisfied being 40, 50 in the world and losing the hamburgers. He didn't want to go there. He didn't want that, even though he could have still made millions of dollars, with endorsements and so on. That's how, but that's what made him great, his thirst for competition. So he didn't want to keep going on. But then you got BW and Serena, they're still hanging around at 40. It's a little bit different. It's an individual thing. I think everybody's wired different when it comes to that. And it's a family decision, it's a personal decision. They already know what's going on if they're a step slower, or mentally it takes them longer to concentrate, or, you got younger people that want to knock you off and put that notch on their belt, but it's all individual. But Roddick was a perfect example. He could have played 5 more years and still been top 30. But if he couldn't have been top 10, he goes, I'm out of here.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, we're going to bring on another Hall of Famer like yourself. This is one of my friends, my associates, and a mentor to me. He carries the spirit of excellence. But I'll tell you a quick story before I went to the Padres playoff game with him. And my alma mater just beat USC in the Cotton Bowl yesterday, Tulane. I still can't believe that we beat USC. Somebody would have told me when I was at Tulane that someday we beat USC in the Cotton Bowl and be ranked in the top 10 and be incredible. But I asked Marshall a question because
that was a crazy ending.
Yeah, it was great. That's why you love the bowl games. But I
ahead.
asked Marshall the playoff game because I went back and I watch a lot of football from the sidelines. But I was a Division III average player at best. And I watched the game from the sideline. I'm like, how the heck did I ever play this game? Well, maybe it's because the pros in the game so fast. So I asked Marshall, I said, when you're standing on the sideline of a game today, Marshall, I go, do you look at it and say, like, how the heck did I ever do this? And he said, oh yeah, I look at it, and when you're in it, it doesn't seem so hard. So I was going to ask you, Rick, does a Roderick sit on the sidelines now and watch tennis and say, how the heck did I ever do that?
Well, it's not quite as physical as football, but yeah, if you have a sibling or someone, you're going to get more nervous. You might get more nervous when you're actually than carrying the ball and running into people. So it's a whole different thing when you're watching a child or you're a coach and you're watching someone. Much different than playing, because when you're competing, you're just in there battling. But before we get started, first off, Marshall, welcome. Listen, we got so many things in common, Dave, when all the guests come on, and with Marshall, whenever a kid hits a great shot, I always say there's a new sheriff in town, but today there's a new marshal in town. All right. And when I want them to move their feet, I always tell them pop the popcorn, extra butter, especially the slower ones. And Marshall sold some popcorn back in the day when he was a little Falker in New Orleans at the Superdome. So there's something common there. But in 1999 to 2001, he was the man with the greatest show on turf. And now he's the man with the greatest show that people surf. So welcome to the show.
Rick, man, that was awesome. That was
Yeah.
just flat out
Fresh,
awesome.
fresh out of the oven. I'm glad you're here and
That's
welcome.
pretty good, man. Nah, it's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here listening to you. I was backstage listening to you guys, man. It's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, it's so nice to spend time with you, which I'm blessed over the years to do so. And you and I share a lot of great business and friendship things together. But, when he's talking about popping the popcorn, I was thinking, he's going to say that Marshall knows how to pop the popcorn with butter when his feet. If you watch him run, I don't know how someone moves that quickly, laterally and vertically. Incredible quickness and speed and heart with Marshall. But I'll tell you this. The reason Marshall and I do business together.
He had other brothers chasing him as a little kid, and that helped his agility to stop on a dime. Listen, I know the backstory with all these great athletes, and there's always a backstory. And his
That's it.
brothers have a lot to do with him stopping on a dime and going the other direction.
That's right. He not just stopped on the dime. He picked it up on the way because this guy is money savvy, and he always shows up for his friends and his family and his associates. And over the years, when I was partners with Warren Moon, I always keep my eye on the future prospects. And it was amazing to me. I'd always see for a charity one guy always showing up, and it was Marshall Falk. And then as I transitioned from Sports One marketing into my own brand and my own entrepreneurship, I threw out a test lob, and who hits it out of the park? Marshall Falk goes out of his way, shows up to a charitable event, bends over backwards for all the kids and the charity itself. And I said, these are the type of people I want to be around, the Marshalls and the Macy's of the world, to create the magic for people. So this guy's doing it off the field even better than an MVP of a Super Bowl, a Hall of Famer, should have been a Heisman Trophy winner as well. Can't get everything, can you, Marshall? But Marshall, what have you taken mindset wise into the business world? Because I'm with Austin Eckler doing some coaching on business with him, and he has the Marshall Falk mindset in business, and he's still playing at you saw him last game at the highest level.
Mhm.
What were some of the things that you did on the field in your career that you're now seeing benefits from off the field in business?
Probably the one thing, Dave, is just I wanted to always be consistent. You know, you're not going to always be motivated. You're not going to always have your good stuff. But if you go about it consistently and how you operate and how you work, you're going to usually produce good results. You might not always produce the best results, but you're going to always produce the good results. The one thing that if anybody that ever played the game with me, they're going to always tell you I was prepared and ready to play. Like they're going to tell you, I understood what was going on. If a play was called, I not only knew what I needed to do, I knew what the other 10 guys needed to do, and I knew what the 11 defenders was doing. It was just consistently, I was going to always be prepared. I was going to be ready, and I was never, ever, ever going to lose because of a mental error. Physically, you can beat me. Mentally, you are not going to beat me. And that was one of the things that today, I think about it today. Um, Before I get on calls, before I sit down with people, and before I start talking to them, I study. I do exactly what Rick did. Rick understood I sold popcorn in the Superdome. He's like, he got it. He got it. And those are the little things that separate you. When you get to the NFL, the difference between a Hall of Fame guy and the guy that make the Pro Bowl or just another starter is just that. How detailed are you to the play, not just what you have to do, but what's going on around you?
No, well put. He basically what Marshall's really saying, he's controlling the situation. He's not going to let it control him. He is going to be prepared. Okay, and he needs to get more credit how intelligent he is. People look at the 4-3 speed, the agility, the mobility, the shake and the bake and the shiver and deliver. They look at all this stuff, but it's a game of inches, just like tennis, from ear to ear. And all the great ones have that, but people just look on the outside. But it's the inside that's making him even more successful off the field.
Dave, this little kid asked me, like, what was the best award you ever got, like playing football? I was talking to these kids. I said, I done a lot of stuff in football, but the thing that I was most proud of was one year I was on the cover of a magazine and they called me the smartest player in the NFL. I'm like, that that is something that my speed and my strength, it may go away. Somebody may become faster, somebody may become stronger, but what I need to do to maintain my sharpness and studying and doing the things to make that made me intelligent within the game, I can continue to grow that. There's no limit to you upping your level of education. And that for me was like one of the best things that I ever had voted on me about.
And Steve Young, that pissed him off. Let me just tell you. So that was beautiful.
Especially because he's a BYU guy.
As I got a text from Matt Leinart today about my Tulane victory, he was
Oh man,
not happy with me.
that's close to my heart. I love Tulane. It was just like watching Tulane, just to sure that they were competing with. And this wasn't like bad USC. This is good USC.
Yeah.
This is
And
Lincoln Riley got a rough one. In the Cotton Bowl. Oh,
well, speaking of big moments, though, you've had a lot of big moments, and a lot of people don't come through in the big moments. And this is true in business. I call it in my expertise in business. I say there's a lot of good openers, Marshall, but there's very few good closers. And we saw that with Ohio State's kicker versus Michigan's kicker. If I'm a scout, I know which kid I'm taking in the draft, right? There's no doubt. But you have to be in business a good closer, and you have to be a good closer because there's going to be bad calls and injuries to every team coming into a Super Bowl, coming into the Grand Slam championship, and not necessarily will the best athlete win or the best team win in those situations. What makes you such a great closer that it seems in the big games, those are your best games?
I'll say this. I do more listening than talking. I'm more in the space of paying attention and instead of needing attention to pay to me, and I want the moment. I legitimately I want the moment. I'm seeking the moment, and I understand that every play I have to attack it like it's the moment because I don't know which one is going to be the moment. I really don't. Like every play can be the moment, and I'm a like that could be the moment. The game changing, game altering play. It could be any play in the game. It could be multiple plays in the game, and I want to make sure that I am prepared for the moment and I attack it. I wait for it. I love it. I live for the moment. I want to be the guy, and it's not like hooping and hollering and all. No, a play needs to be made. I don't have to tell coach to come to me. I'm gonna make the play. Now, let's say the play might be making a damn good block. The play might be making a 1-yard run. But the play needs to be made. And you have to understand what that is. The moment. You never know when that play may be the big moment. And then this was the best. My coach used to say this. All little moments turn into the big moment.
Yeah.
Continue to win the little moments and watch what happens. You'll win the big moment.
Was that Dick Vermeil by chance?
Yeah. Win the little moments.
No, absolutely. The little things make the big things, in all sports. And Marshall needs even more credit for his blocking. There's never been someone so complete. 'Cause I'm a big football fan, so I've seen all this stuff when I evaluate talent. as Dave knows, I can kind of feel this, especially when they're younger. And I would have recruited you as a running back instead of a defensive back for the Carver Rams. So I would have done this very differently. Okay. No, but at the end of the day, the way you just answered that question, I want the ball. It's all on me. I might fail, but I want the ball the next time, because you're going to fail to succeed, and you cannot be afraid. And even there's many pro athletes in all sports. There's a lot of people good, like you said earlier, but great is rare air, and it's right here, and it's the mindset. And if you believe it, you're more likely going to achieve it.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to succeed, success is in the failure. If you continue to succeed, you really don't know what success is until you fail.
That's right.
Yeah, losses are spelled with an L because the lessons are in the losses. You're just executing on what you already know when you win. And it's interesting. Andre Reed, who's also a friend of ours, one of the stories I love when I fell in love with Andre Reed was he was telling me about Jim Kelly. Every time he's in the huddle, right? He said, "Jim, give me the ball. I'm wide open." Every single huddle. And Jim looked up to him and said, "Andre, it's a running play." And he said, "And this is a flag football game. Stop asking for the ball, man." But I want someone that's asking for the moment. And I think that says a lot in business and, of course, in life. But Marshall, we had an unfortunate incident last night. Never happened before, but it revealed something about football that a lot of people, I don't think, appreciates, that you and I have seen over the years, and Rick has seen as well in sports in general, that there become moments that are far beyond the game. And, I know the NFL is going to take a hit for some freak accident. And, I watch UFC, I watch all types of sports. Car racing has been one that I've worked on for years. There's plenty of dangerous sports. And as long as people know the risks, I think we should be able to do what we want to do if we know the risks, as long as they've been disclosed. If the Pinto is going to blow up and we know the Pinto is going to blow up when it's hit from behind, and you want to drive a Pinto, drive a Pinto. But last night, I thought that sports was revealed for something else, that both teams, as someone almost their life was in jeopardy at the very least, everyone, you could see a higher level of concern, a higher level of human nature, and a higher self from all players, coaches, everyone on the field. What was going through your mind, when you saw something like this as a retired Hall of Famer? What were the lessons that you were drawing about the sport that you played more than anyone, succeeded more than anyone, and love as much as anyone?
Dave, this is I'm gonna try to get through this without being emotional. And last night was hard because of the past week. The guy who sits behind me in the Hall of Fame is Franco Harris. And Franco, he was just at an event the day before, literally died in his sleep. And was somebody who I started to get to know very well. And I'd go sit down and just start talking to guys in the room. And Franco was my guy the past 2 years that I really got information, learned a lot about him, learned a lot about his family, his business off the field, and just a lot of the things that he did to cultivate. People don't understand that dynasty that you saw in Pittsburgh, it started with Franco.
Yeah.
He went to Penn State. He's a Pennsylvania guy. It literally started with him. He was the connector. It had nothing to do with the defense. It had nothing to do with Bradshaw, not Swan. It was him and that offensive line, and what they did became the identity to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, that was already weighing heavy on me. And watching this young man last night, it spoke to how lucky I am that I played that. I started playing football when I was 6. I retired when I was 33. And I was able to walk away from the game, as of right now, in pretty damn good shape. I feel good. A lot of guys are in the same space. We have some guys who are really struggling outside the game, not financially. I'm talking mentally. I'm talking about with their health and stuff like that. And we take the wealthiest game, the richest game. The Redskins about to sell for 4 billion, 5 billion, something like that. Panthers sold for 3-4 billion. And we can't get health care for retired players. We can't take care of the guys who helped create the game. And what last night did was last night showed everybody, no, we're not at war shooting guns, but you can lose your life playing the game of football. It's a violent sport, and we choose to play. And here's what I say this all the time. As I risk my life walking back and forth to the park in the Desire Projects because I love playing the game, because that game, the game of football, was my opportunity. That was my opportunity to change my family's dynamic. And guess what? I understood the risk in playing the game. But please understand, when these players want to get paid and all this money is going, and you're like, get paid that much to play football. Understand what it is. And understand when we are talking to billionaires about revenue sharing, because here's the reality. Those two owners, guess what they family know they got to do last night? They got to go home. They got to go home. And they're putting nothing on the line to where it's going to jeopardize their livelihood. A collective bargaining agreement, it'll be coming up soon. You'll hear player safety. The NFL is doing a great job with player safety. Great job. The fact that they did not, listen, let's be honest. I've watched all the shows and nobody said this. Normally, they wheel that guy off the field, and guess what we do? We play. I'm talking about in practice. Guy gets hurt, it could be very serious. You want to know what we do? We move further down the field. Let's keep going. Last night was a statement to where we are at in the game. In today's game, the player and the player's safety is paramount in this league. And it showed last night. And guess what? Guess what they could have said? We're playing a game tomorrow. They've literally said, we don't know when we're playing that game. This game is a defining game in the AFC. This has huge implications. But they've said that this young man's life and the players who were there watching, because that's going to stick with you. It's still with me. I slept awful last night, thinking that could have been me. The league did a great job. Everything was handled. All the protocols and the things that they have in place with the ambulance and the amount of doctors there possibly save this young man's life. And hopefully he gets, don't worry about playing football, he gets to live to see another day.
Yeah, well put.
Yeah, and hopefully, Marshall, as you know, with my involvement with the Hall of Fame players, Retired Players Association, etc., standing up for the guys who built the game. You know, people like Bobby Bell, who made $5,800, drove a cab, and still, will play golf with someone because he still needs income, right?
Yeah.
And he'll still appear somewhere. And this is probably one of the most dynamic football players of all time. He was said to have been able to play every single position as a professional. That's how talented he was. And I don't think a lot of people today, they don't remember even Warren Moon, let alone the guys who built the game so that the billionaires can buy their $750 million yachts and not give health care to the kids that came in and maybe only lasted 2 years, but can never walk the same again. Or, some of the heroes of mine that can't remember their kids' names, some of my old clients that don't remember my name. And a dear friend of ours, I'm turning 55 in a few days, and I call it my Junior Seau birthday. And I know you and I are both very close with Junior. There's a lot of things costing lives and families' lives outside of the game when we retire. And I think hopefully this will not only draw the attention to the needs of the current players, as we're doing a good job today, but we need still to do a better job for the retired players, in my opinion, and I know yours. Marshall, man,
They need us, Dave.
we got to
need
end on
us.
a high note. So I'm gonna let you, as they say, land the plane with my good friend Marshall. Something upbeat, something you got in mind, comment, question, or a little bit of history, another funny story that I don't know about Marshall.
You want Marshall to say something
Either
or
one,
myself?
man. I want to end on a high note.
No, listen, at the end of the day, the way he played the game, okay, everybody looks at the speed and the ball catching and the blocking, the agility and all this stuff, but he spelled it out. What's between the ears, the way he studied the game. And that's why people say there'll never be another Marshall Faulk. I mean, there was a complete package. Okay. I'm not saying that because he's like in front of us. I'm just saying I've watched his stuff and I evaluate talent. He's very unique in many ways, but I think even now in business, he's more unique because I've looked at some of these things that he started to help others, to help people that don't have the opportunity, people low income and all these other things. It just shows you how he's wired, and that's part of the package that made him the Hall of Famer.
Dave, I people always ask me, like, who did you model your game after? And like, what did y'all say? I looked at everybody. And then they get into the conversation of who's the greatest running back or who's the greatest receiver, who's the greatest quarterback. And I always tell people, my high school coach, because I wanted to play a position, I wanted to play running back. And he said, no, you're going to be a football player. You're going to play quarterback. You're going to play receiver. You're going to play tight end. You're going to play defensive back. You're going to play safety. You're going to kick. You're going to punt. You're going to return kicks and punts. You're going to know how to hold. You're going to be a football player. And so when we get into the debate, I just tell people, I'm a football player. That's what I was a football player. That's what I did. That's what I did well. I played football.
More importantly, you sold more popcorn at the Superdome than any other kid. So you're the leader in the clubhouse selling the popcorn as a little Falker. So
a little Falker.
Nice.
Meet the Falker. Marshall
might put me in the Hall of Fame for it.
Hall of Fame football player, friend, and I consider family, man. You are a blessing to me and to Rick. Anytime you want anything you need, all you got to do is ask. I'm going to look forward to seeing you on Friday or Thursday. Sorry, I'm coming down there next week and get to share some great time with you and the great Ed Milet as well. So keep up the great work. Keep on helping others. I will tell you real quick, George Jones is the guy who beat one of Marshall's records at San Diego State. And he tells me, yeah, Marshall has done more for my business career in mentoring me than anyone else in my life, and suggested that I give you a call for more help. And I thought, what a humble, gracious thing, because taking the guy who beat one of your records and still giving back and helping him. So you've made a great impact on the guy that looks up to you. I'll tell you that. Rick Macci, Marshall Faulk, the incredible Hall of Famer on and off the field. May you be blessed every day, and thank you for being a part of my life. And now Rick's, it's Game Set Life with Marshall Faulk. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys. Happy New Year.
Marshall.
Incredible. Woo! He's amazing.
No, you could. It's all mental. He wasn't talking about how high he jumped and how fast he ran, and it's all mental, and that's why he just keeps on rolling.
Well, what's funny is I met Dr. J. Maybe we'll have him on the show. When I was 12, I was a ball boy, and in the game before, I wanted to quit because Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was so mean to me. It was my first day as a ball boy for the San Diego Clippers, and Dr. J was so gracious to me that he had no idea where I'd end up my career. And one of the most common questions when I was running the sports agency, of course, was, who's the coolest athlete, the nicest athlete that you've ever met? And because not anyone that I represented, not because of the way he treated me when I was 12 years old, I always would say Dr. J. And little did he know, when he was kind to me, kind to his future self, by giving me a couple pairs of socks and putting the biggest hand I've ever seen in my life on my back and calling me son and making me feel like $1 million back when $1 million was a lot of money. You know, he stuck in my heart as the coolest, nicest athlete I've ever met. And now I have learned one thing about how I can pay it back or pay it forward to Marshall Falk. When somebody asks me who the smartest athlete I've ever known, I can say Marshall Falk, because I know that means more to him than any compliment of his athletic ability. So anyway, Rick, I think we got time for a quick one question. We always run this to the limit because the guests are so amazing. Matt, you want to pop up a question here for us? All right, here we go. What are some of the most common attributes that you see in champions?
Well, that's kind of an easy one. It's always under the hood. It's a burning desire, the ability to compete anybody, anytime, anywhere. You know, they just have this drive. You can instill that through motivation and positivity, but they just have this desire to compete. You can teach the X's and O's, you can teach the ground strokes. That's what I always look for, you know, how they compete. So that would be like the number one thing. When I see that box is checked, all right, they're going to handle pressure better.
It's so funny because, you know, obviously you and I have had shared exposure to many champions, including Marshall Falk, and mine is so similar. Mine is a desire that they must be what they can be. And I find that to be true of the billionaires, millionaires, entrepreneurs as well that are hugely successful. I call those people in my court champions as well. But I want to partner with Rick. We're going to do so many more things together because the first thing when we first met each other, I got off, we both felt the same way, two Buckeyes building a big oak together. But I told my team, I said, there is an example of someone who has a desire that they must be what they can be. And that makes a true champion. And that's why I love partnering with Rick Macci. I'm David Meltzer. This is Game Set Life with Macci and Meltzer. You can catch us every Tuesday at noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. when Rick finally gets off the court in his 35-year streak of never sitting down. Come and join us every Tuesday. This show's only going to get bigger and better. We're going to put it on our streaming channels in the airports and hotel rooms. I'm working in the background to give it the exposure, awareness, and amplification it deserves. Unbelievable, great guest, but even more incredible host, Rick Macci. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, Dave, we'll do it again next Tuesday.
Consistency, I guarantee you'll be here. Game Set Life with Macci and Meltzer. Join us next Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.